Sanskrit or just English? Sanskrit also. Starting with verse 28, 29. Keep it close. Chada madana mokshaya mama shritya yatantiye te brahma tadvadu kritsnam adhyatmam karma chakilam. Translation. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental and fruitive activities. Text 30. Sadhi bhutadi daivam mam sadhi yagyam chaye viduhu dayana kale picha mam te vidur yukta chetasaha. Translation. Those who know me as the Supreme Lord, as the governing principle of the material manifestation, who know me as the one underlying all the demigods, and as the one sustaining all sacrifices, can, with steadfast mind, understand and know me, even at the time of death. Chapter 8, Text 1. Arjuna uvacha, kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhidaivam kim uchyate. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Text 2. Adhiyagya katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana riyana kale cha katham gyeyosi niyatatma bhihi. How does this Lord of Sacrifice live in the body? And in which part does he live, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Text 3. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavodhyatmam Uchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhava Karo Visarga Karma Sangitkara. The Supreme Lord said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called the Self. Action pertaining to the development of these material bodies is called karma, or fruitive activities. Text 4. Adhi bhutam ksharo bhava purushascha adhiyagyo hamivatra dehe deha bhritamvara. Physical nature is known to be endlessly mutable. The universe is the cosmic form of the Supreme Lord, and I am that Lord represented as the Supersoul, dwelling in the heart of every embodied being. Text 5. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra sangshayaha. And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Text 6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamivaiti konteya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Text 7. Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayarpatamano buddhir mami vaishyasya samshayaha. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. And text 8. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. He who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, Arjuna, is sure to reach me. Now returning to text 29. We'll read the purport, correct? Okay. Translation again. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental and fruitive activities. Purport. Birth, death, old age, and diseases affect this material body, but not the spiritual body. There is no birth, death, old age, and disease for the spiritual body. So one who attains a spiritual body becomes one of the associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engages in eternal devotional service is really liberated. Aham Brahmasmi. I am spirit. It is said that one should understand that he is Brahman, spirit soul. This Brahman conception of life is also in devotional service, as described in this verse. The pure devotees are transcendentally situated on the Brahman platform, and they know everything about transcendental and material activities. 4 kinds of impure devotees who engage themselves in the transcendental service of the Lord achieve their respective goals, and by the grace of the Supreme Lord, when they are fully Krishna conscious, they actually enjoy spiritual association with the Supreme Lord. But those who are worshippers of demigods never reach the Supreme Lord in his supreme planet. Even the less intelligent Brahman realized persons cannot reach the supreme planet of Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan. Only persons who perform activities in Krishna consciousness, Mam Ashritya, are actually entitled to be called Brahman, because they are actually endeavoring to reach the Krishna planet. Such persons have no misgivings about Krishna, and thus they are factually Brahman. Those who are engaged in worshiping the form or archa of the Lord, or who are engaged in meditation on the Lord simply for liberation from material bondage, also know, by the grace of the Lord, the purports of Brahman, Adhibhuta, etc., as explained by the Lord in the next chapter. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Ite Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Pashyatya Desha Taine. So, dear Vaishnavas, we're hearing the transcendental words of Krishna and his pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. We're very fortunate. When I first received Bhagavad Gita, I didn't realize how special it was. And I tried to read it and I couldn't really relate. It was, I guess I wasn't pious enough. My life, I was doing a lot of crazy things and not preparing fertile soil for transcendental seeds to be planted. But after about a year, I learned about the Maha Mantra and was doing some kirtan. And then I started to feel the Bhagavad Gita is so special. Somehow Krishna just opened up the Bhagavad Gita to me because I guess I got blessings of some devotees somehow, and the holy names had purified me so I could perceive there was something very special about the Bhagavad Gita. And I would carry it around with me almost like it was a baby, or like when a child has an action figure or some favorite toy, or, very attached to something. So somehow I got this attachment for Bhagavad Gita, but I couldn't understand anything. I still felt it was so special. I would try to read it and I just couldn't understand anything. And it's because I was trying to understand with my own mind. That's the problem. You can't understand Bhagavad Gita on your own. It's not possible. Hare Krishna. We have to receive Bhagavad Gita, the wisdom, in parampara, means in disciplic succession. Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu. that Bhagavad Gita came down in a line of saintly kings, Raja Rishis. So powerful leaders who were also spiritually potent, Raja Rishis, in this line of teachers from Krishna himself. And we have the glorious parampara up here on the wall. Krishna is at the very top, and you can go down one by one, down to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, the bottom right. And then we have his followers and disciples. His Holiness Danavir Goswami Maharaj is kindly giving us this space to explore the teachings of Lord Krishna. So it's by the grace of these great souls that we can understand anything of Bhagavad Gita. So it's very important that we understand this principle. And therefore, there are programs like RVC, so you can receive the mercy of devotees. You can do some service and please them, and then they will pray to Krishna. My dear Lord Krishna, my dear Gauranitai, please bless this devotee so they can understand. So Krishna here is talking about intelligent persons, and an intelligent person understands the need to take shelter of a pure devotee, to understand this wisdom. Krishna also says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, that to understand this knowledge, you need to approach a spiritual master and do service and inquire with submission. And then Upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. They are tattvadarshi, which means they can see the truth. And so by the grace of one who has seen the truth, they know Krishna, then they can bless us with the understanding. So this is called the descending process. Usually in the material world, we're trying the ascending process, where with our own intelligence, our own mental abilities, our inference powers, we try to understand scientific knowledge. But this is a very ineffective way to receive knowledge. Because even if you take a chemistry student, for example, they're reading from a textbook. They're learning about all of the studies that other scientists have done. So they're actually also following the descending process, right? They're not going and doing all the tests themselves. It would take lifetimes to go through a whole chemistry textbook and actually prove all of the results there, right? So even in the academic scientific world, we use this descending process, or it's called shabda, which means hearing, transcendental sound vibration. So they're using this hearing process. You go and sit in front of a professor, you read from a textbook, you're hearing from authorities. And in the same way, in the science of Bhagavad Gita, in the science of God, we find someone who has seen God, who experiences God, and we serve them, and they can bless us with the understanding of God and his teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So that is one aspect of being intelligent, is seeing, I'm very limited. I can't understand much on my own. I need help. I should go to RVC. I should. And all of you, very intelligently, have taken shelter here, and you're all shining because you're receiving spiritual knowledge. And so what do we learn here? We learn about liberation from old age and death, and how to take refuge of Krishna in devotional service. Because Krishna says later in the Bhagavad Gita that Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. So we were talking about the spiritual master is Tattvadarshi, right? Darshan. We talk about going to take darshan of the deities. It means to see the deities. So the spiritual master is Tattvadarshi. They see the truth. And here in this verse, Krishna is saying dukkha, which means suffering, dosha anudarshanam. That they darshan, they see the suffering of birth, death, old age, and disease. So an intelligent person has this vision. So maybe we're not at the level that we can see Krishna directly. We can't talk to Krishna. But we can become intelligent and see in this way. We can see, whoa, everyone in this world is getting old, diseased, and dying. Something's wrong here. I don't want to die. I don't want to get old, right? Yudhishthir Maharaj, great elder brother of Arjuna, he said the most amazing thing in this world is that everybody is seeing death at every second, practically, and they think it won't happen to me. Amazing, right? Even just driving from Denver to Kansas City. So this morning we stopped for gas, and I took out the little brush, they have in the windshield wiper, whatever fluid. With great force, I scrubbed our windshield because there were so many dead bugs all over it. It was practically like a whole layer. And so I scrubbed. And by the time we got to the next gas station, it was full again with hundreds and hundreds of dead living entities. You're driving down the road and you just hear the sound of something hitting. It's death. Constantly. You see roadkill all over the side of the road. So insects, rodents. I saw a dead fox on the way in here. You drive past cemeteries and there's just hundreds, maybe thousands of dead human beings. And yet we're going on with our life. La-di-da. Everything's okay. It's crazy, actually. It's insane. And that's why Krishna, so there's a famous verse. Krishna talks about a sober person. I'm talking about the intoxicated person. Most people in the world are actually intoxicated. Because when you're intoxicated, you can't see what's what. But a sober person, Krishna describes, Dehino asmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara, that tata dehantara praptir dhira. Dhira means sober. Dhiras tatra namuhyati. A sober person is one who sees that when a person dies, it's just the body that dies, and actually the soul goes on. So that's a sober person. On the other hand, an intoxicated person is one who doesn't understand that I'm going to die, and this is the most important question in my life: is what should I do, knowing that I'm going to die? And that's how the whole Bhagavatam starts, right? This emperor of the whole world, he renounces everything, and he goes to sit on the bank of the holy Ganges River, and he asks the great Shukadev Goswami, what's the duty of a man who's about to die? So that's an intelligent person. Krishna says, intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death. So this is an intelligent person. And so what does an intelligent person do? They take refuge in Krishna, in devotional service. And that's what this whole International Society for Krishna Consciousness is to show us how to practice devotional service. It's very easy to do. So easy to do, right? We're dancing, eating wonderful food, making spiritual friendships and talking about meaningful things, not just gossiping, not just talking about Drake and Jay-Z. Or if we do talk about those things, we do a spiritual analysis. Oh, look at that false ego Drake has. We can actually see everything in a spiritual light if you really study Bhagavad Gita. But devotional service is so easy, so wonderful if you really find someone who's qualified to guide you. That's the whole key, is finding a spiritual master who knows the science of bhakti. And then it becomes so easy. I was just talking to Aiden about how in my life, finding someone who knows me very well, has understood my nature, they've been able to guide me in the right path so that I can practice bhakti for my whole life. Because there's different ways of practicing bhakti. There's unlimited ways of practicing bhakti. The main thing is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. We hear about Krishna, we chant about Krishna, we remember Krishna. We chant japa every day, follow these 4 regulative principles. Outside of that, there's unlimited different ways that we can practice devotional service, depending on our unique nature and our relationship with Krishna. Like Krishnendu Prabhu here. Thank you. Expert cook and pujari. So that's one way of expressing devotional service. Some devotees, like myself, are restless. I can't stay in one place very long. So I live in a van and I travel around the continent and distribute books. There's so many different things you can do, so many different devotional arts. You can really go into kirtan and learn the instruments and really learn the mood of kirtan and go into these great devotional prayers of our acharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Narottam Das Thakur, and really sing from your heart for Krishna and bring these devotional songs uh, into life with other devotees chanting together. So intelligent people understand bhakti is really easy. Everything else is actually very difficult. Material life is really difficult, right? Just to survive in this world is so difficult. To make enough money to pay for a car, a house, a family is not easy. College, tuition for children, uh, retirement costs, it's a lot. It's a heavy responsibility. And devotees are able to do it in Krishna consciousness. It's possible. But without Krishna consciousness, living and working in the world and having a family is only anxiety. And then even those who become a little bit transcendental, they try to do some impersonal type of yoga. And then Krishna says, klesho adhikataras tesham, that there's so much klesha, there's so much pain involved trying to practice spiritual, like meditation, asana yoga alone. It's very difficult, very painful. It's so lonely. We need friendships. We need sweet, dancing together like we just did, having this Bhagavad Gita discussion right now, talking to each other afterwards, sitting down and honoring prasadam together. We need this. It's the nature of our soul. So trying to go alone and practice outside of ISKCON is going to be so painful, even if you're trying to practice bhakti. Prabhupada says it's a hallucination to think you can do bhakti alone. We need others. So finally, Krishna says that those who are intelligent, as we've been discussing, those who see the misery of birth, old age, disease, and death, who take refuge in devotional service, are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental and fruitive activities. Wow. So aham brahmasmi, Prabhupada says, you realize I'm a spiritual being. I'm not a body. And therefore, why should I waste time in just trying to make my body? It's like feeding the stomach nourishes the whole body. Watering the root of the tree nourishes the whole tree. Like that, if I serve Krishna, then I feel happy and everyone feels happy, actually. So this is Krishna's amazing instruction for us. Be intelligent. See material life is no fun. Take to bhakti yoga, realize you're a spiritual being, and you'll learn everything. The whole path will become clear. Krishna from within will enlighten you in your heart, and the spiritual master from without will enlighten you with instructions. And then your whole life will be smooth, clear. There will be troubles, but Krishna will help you get through them, and you'll be always satisfied within. Hare Krishna. So Prabhu's reflections, questions, comments, corrections. Yes, Aiden.
So sometimes, I mean, I I kind of understand that you should balance maybe um, engaging with other people and isolating a little bit. But do you think that maybe that's not a good way of looking at it? Do you think that I should constantly try to be an association of a devotee or an association of someone with this consciousness, or is it okay if I'm alone and kind of just like can I don't know, you're just alone. I don't have to explain the romance, but
Yeah. I find it valuable. I mean, by nature, I'm quite an extroverted person, so I can be around people most of the time and be very happy. I find it's valuable for myself to be alone sometimes. I write in my journal, I reflect on my life, and when I'm away from others, it helps me think about my relationships with them and how can I improve. I'm thinking about them, so in a way, I'm still with them. I'm thinking about the people who are close to me, and I like to spend some time in the forest, a sattvic environment. I'll spend a few hours and I'll just be by myself, and then I'll go back to the temple. So I usually don't spend very long alone, but I find it very valuable in my personal life. At the same time, I feel it's similar when I'm with someone who's very close to me. Because we're always having to put up a little bit of a mask when we're around most people. We're trying to be careful, and if we're just no filter, we're going to make a lot of we're going to hurt people. So it's very important to have people in our life who we can just have no filter and be totally ourselves in front of. And for me, that's almost like being alone also. That's as much as I can share. I guess the point that Prabhupada is making is just abandoning the association of devotees entirely and abandoning ISKCON and just going and living in Vrindavan by yourself and just thinking you can chant japa all day. That is a hallucination. But while you're in the ashram, to spend an hour or two. I mean, Krishnendu Prabhu, he's studying Bhagavatam, and he's sitting there alone and studying, and he's getting great insight. And then when he's with others, he probably talks about it. And so it's like we nourish ourselves, and then when we're with others, then we share what we've gained, the jewels that we've discovered. Yeah, those are some thoughts, Aiden Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yes, Joseph.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for speaking.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Can I piggyback
Yeah.
Aiden's question? You said something that was actually already on my mind. You said that you're an introverted person. Extroverted person. I'm an introverted person. And all my life I've kind of like taken shelter in this and like used it to rationalize distancing myself from other people. Like, oh, I don't want to go. I'm just an introvert. I'm just going to stay home and read or, play video games or, do whatever. So what is this introverted, extroverted nature that we see varies between person to person, and how like there's so much of myself that is just a product of my conditioning, how I was brought up, the association that I had, So I could really enjoy other people's company, and I just haven't been around the right people. So I guess my question is double-sided, and I'm curious about what you have to say about introvert, extrovert, these labels that we put on ourselves, and then the other side is like, how do we actually begin to see who we are and what we really need? Sometimes I limit myself to what I actually need, I feel like. So.
Yeah. So for myself, I can say that actually I used to be very shy and I thought I was an introvert. And after practicing bhakti for some time, I'm seeing actually my nature, at least my conditioned nature, is quite extroverted. So my understanding of my nature has changed through my practice of bhakti over the years. And I think a helpful barometer for seeing what is healthy, what is sustainable for each of us is our emotional state. So if we're around people and we're getting really disturbed, maybe angry, frustrated, then I will take some time, find a space and reflect, okay, what's going on in my heart? Why am I so disturbed right now? Maybe I'll have a difficult morning program and it's really hard for me and I'm feeling disturbed and it's hard for me to interact in a nice, sweet way with the other devotees. Then I'll just take some time and do something that I love to do. I'll talk to someone I really am close with. I'll call them and open my heart to them, explain what's happening, a mentor I really trust. Or I'll do some reading. I'll flip open the Bhagavad Gita and read something. And then once I'm in a more sweet emotional state, then I feel I can really nicely contribute to the Vaishnava Sangha. So depending on our nature, we may need a little more of that time. Depending on our nature, we may want to maintain more close friendships. But even for myself, as quite an extroverted person, I've got maybe 4 people on planet Earth. 2 of them are mentors, 2, 3 are peers who I really open my heart with. And that's it. Like I can count on one hand my very intimate, confidential Vaishnava relationships. And I'm very satisfied with that. So we need to feel nourished. We need to be sustainable. So yeah, if we try to push ourselves outside of our nature too much, we're going to crash. So it's important that we're realistic with ourselves. Okay, I can push myself a little bit, but this is how much I need of alone time to be sustainable in my practice. I need an hour a day where I can just study by myself and read the Bhagavad Gita. Or I need to make sure that I call a mentor I really trust, or talk to someone here I really trust once a day, a few times a week to get really nourished. Those are a few thoughts. Hope that's helpful. Great. Yeah, Krishnendu. It's coming on the way.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, unseen Vaishnava.
So I'm questioning because you mentioned it seems as if your nature has changed, or at least your realization of it, since taking up the path of devotional service. So how valid is it in our neophyte stage to sit and question our nature and figure things out and think I need this, I need that, versus taking guidance from authorities, somebody who's actually traversed more of this and discovered more of those ups and downs and some of the obstacles on the path of devotional service? Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, that's a nice point. So what we're doing is called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And so to be consistent is very important. So that's why there's a whole regulated program here. You go to the morning program, you go to Harinam, you study, you have a Bhagavad Gita class in the evening. It's scheduled. And that's very important for us because like you're saying, Krishnendu Prabhu, we don't know ourselves very well. And to have this regular process purifies us, and then we can begin to see our true self more clearly. My experience, Prabhu, is that there's a combination required. Mentors who know us well and we trust, who are well situated in devotional service, and then also following the guidance that we're getting from our emotional state. Of course, we don't have perfect understanding of Krishna's guidance from within, but still, if we're really disturbed, then it's reasonable to go and nourish ourselves. You know, we don't just abandon the whole program, but when we have some free time, then we go and nourish ourselves so we can feel satisfied. And like I've been mentioning, also talking with a senior that we trust. These are a few reflections. That's a very nice question, Prabhu. I'd like to talk more about it after class and hear your thoughts. Hare Krishna. Any other reflections, comments? Yeah, Joseph?
In the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he talks about how only persons who perform activities in Krishna consciousness are actually entitled to be called Brahman. So I'm curious why that is, because it seems like Brahman's a quality. It's like one of our qualities, you know, eternality. So
you're saying that all living beings are spiritual souls. And so why is it that only those who are actively practicing devotional service are entitled to be called Brahman?
you got it.
Prabhupada says, only persons who perform activities in Krishna consciousness, Mam Ashritya, are actually entitled to be called Brahman because they are actually endeavoring to reach the Krishna planet. Such persons have no misgivings about Krishna, and thus they are factually Brahman. So my understanding based on what Prabhupada is saying here is that they have the proper knowledge. And that's why. Because they understand the supreme goal is to go back to Godhead, back to Krishna's planet. And they have no misgivings about Krishna. So they don't think, I'm God, I'm Krishna. They know themselves properly. So it seems that's what Prabhupada is saying, is that, of course, we're all spiritual beings in nature, but only those who know that and who know that Krishna is God and to serve Krishna eternally in Goloka Vrindavan is the goal of life, that person is entitled to be called Brahman. Like, I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like we've all got the potential to be there, but like maybe anybody can learn to be a doctor, but only one who's actually studied and has the knowledge is entitled to be called a doctor. Perhaps something like that. It's a nice question. It appears it's about knowledge, proper knowledge. Perhaps Danavir Maharaj can add more clarity. So any last thoughts, curiosities, questions? Yes.
Something that was mentioned, I don't know, in another class, but I think it's on topic. Should I recognize Krishna moving in my life, or should I kind of just like see it happen and kind of just like see forward, or should I say, this happened and then take note of it and then kind of like examine it and analyze it, or should I kind of see this is happening and it's interesting and so keep moving forward because it's interesting kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How much should we stop and analyze our situation, and how much should we just go on and not get stuck in analysis? there's a balance we have to find. If we analyze too much, then we won't go anywhere. And if we're always going and not analyzing, we might be going in the wrong direction. So we need both the helicopter vision, the bird's eye view, and then we also need the microscope vision. So we need both. How do we develop that? What I find helpful is from time to time, once a day, once a week at least, to just zoom out and reflect on my life and do some journaling or kind of, while I'm driving, I drive a lot. So just to stop and think, okay, what's been going on in my life? And just zooming out, what does my life look like? What's my trajectory? What kind of habits am I developing? What good habits do I see cultivating? What bad ones am I still struggling with? What's my association like? Am I really confiding in devotees that I trust? Am I really progressing well in Krishna consciousness? So that's what I do. But then most of the day, I'm just going and doing the regulated program, and I'm satisfied with it. So at least on a regulated basis, we should stop and reflect on our life. Journaling, I find very helpful. Yeah. You're welcome. Inquisitiveness means you're intelligent persons, as Krishna is describing here. Yeah. Good questions. Anything else before we finish off? Thank you all so much for the opportunity. I'm very honored. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.